Hello Wargamers, I'm Invasive Ramnus and welcome to another installment of my new Tau Codex review. Today I'm going to be talking about the Piranha, which these are my Piranha here. I painted them in several different ways just because I couldn't figure out a scheme that I really liked, so I just kind of had fun with it. But the Piranha as a fast attack option doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles with it. There's relatively few number of upgrades that you can take. It's a fast open top skimmer, which means that it can boost 18 inches. It ignores terrain like all skimmers, and on the downside, when it suffers a penetrating hit, you get +1 to the damage result because it's open topped. So all in all, the Piranha is a relatively mobile weapons platform, but it's more than that. It has several different tactical applications, and so I'm going to be talking about what those are and what you might want to do with the Piranha if you include it in your army list under this new codex. So relative to last edition, there are three big changes for the Piranha. And those are that it was reduced in cost. It's about 40 points now. It used to be almost double that. Fusion blasters are now 18-inch range as opposed to 12, which is pretty important. And drones act slightly differently now. They're no longer just part of the vehicle. They act as embarked passengers, shooting out of fire points. So in order to understand how this influences the Piranha, we need to talk about how it used to be used, and then we can move forward to see how those changes influence how it is currently used, or at least I expect it to be used in the future. And then we'll wrap up and talk about whether or not this is something you might want to take in your army. Alright, so the Piranha used to be used primarily as a screen unit, which means that let's say you have some pathfinders here or something else, you would deploy your Piranha either on the side of or in front of that sensitive unit, and deploy the shield drones so that they form their own unit, and then move up and then kind of have a threat bubble around you, primarily from the fusion blaster, which would prevent enemies from going through that space. So this can be really effective in like bottlenecks, where the Piranha would come up and let's say there is like a big piece of terrain right here. You would really either deter them from coming in that portion of the board at all, or if they did, they'd have to choose between going through the forest and suffering difficult terrain, or coming close to the Piranha where they would get a fusion blaster in the face. So that was kind of the main way that you would use it. And let's say the Piranha gets destroyed, which would often happen if you got your Piranha too close to the enemy, or they just didn't care. They'd come up, smack your Piranha, then you have a piece of terrain either blocking that bottleneck or creating cover for your guys or whatever. So the Piranha was generally, somewhat of a suicide unit in that respect, that you would deploy with the intent of it not really doing anything, only being threatening, and if it died, then you'd have terrain there. The gun drones similarly would be in a unit here, and then they provide cover for units behind it, and can get some pock shots off at anything that comes by. So this was often done as a single unit just because you had more versatility, but you could also do it in a unit of 3. And if you did that, then of course the threat bubble is larger. The benefit to doing it as a single unit is that you can deploy them in multiple directions and have threat bubbles that go in multiple different ways. Additionally, though, if you kept them in a unit, when the shield drones or the gun drones disembarked, they would form a unit by themselves. So it wouldn't be 2, 2, and 2, it would be a unit of 6 gun drones, which is a lot more valuable than a unit of 2 gun drones, but that's really not a reason to, that wasn't like a real reason to take them in groups of 3, just because it's a gun drone squadron and, they're not really bringing much to the table anyway. So how do the changes that I just mentioned, reduced points cost, fusion blaster, increased range, and drones acting slightly differently, influence this type of setup? Well, if fusion blasters have a longer range, that means that A, your threat bubble is larger, but B, it also means that they can actually be effective tank hunters to a certain extent. And by that I mean you can equip your Piranha with a fusion blaster, and it's going to take it a lot shorter time to reach a target and be able to destroy it, as opposed to, you know, if the range was only 12 inches. Granted, that's only 6 inches different, but you know, this is a game of inches, and that can make a difference sometimes. That their points cost was reduced makes this a lot less risky, because one of the downsides of doing that previously was that you already invested so many points in this unit. You really, you know, if you were going to get your money's worth out of it, you wanted it to be a deterrent and die in a way that you're going to be able to use it as terrain later, not have it run up to the enemy and then explode in a way that, in a place that really wouldn't benefit you as terrain. So now with the points reduction, being a tank hunter is a lot more viable. Of course, you can just leave it as a burst cannon. I've seen a lot of, or not a lot of lists, but I've seen several lists that include just groups of piranhas using their burst cannons. And this is good in some ways because you get more shots out of the piranha, obviously. You already get 2 from each gun drone, and then you know, you get 4 from the burst cannon now as opposed to 3 previously. But you still need to get close, just like you do with the fusion blaster. And if you're equipping these guys with burst cannons, they're going to be primarily meant to be anti-infantry. Well, piranhas are really vulnerable to infantry or kind of medium power shots through torrent of fire, just because their front armor is 11, so they can't get killed front on by a standard bolter. But if you get on the side, they can get shot up pretty easily just from torrent of fire through on the side of the hull there. So that's a slightly riskier option. For the same amount of points, you could get an equivalent number of long-range pulse rifle shots. So, or for the same amount of points, you could get twice as many rapid-fire pulse rifle shots too. So, if you're doing it for the points, it's not really worth it, in my opinion, to stay with a burst cannon unless you're somehow incorporating them as a shielding unit into that as well. But one of the nice things about the gun drones, though, is that they're able to shoot at different targets now, like I mentioned earlier. So that makes them serving as either anti-infantry or anti-tank a little bit more effective, because now you can have the Piranha dedicated to be anti-tank, and the gun drones can still shoot at things on the way there. But that really only works at this points cost, though. You wouldn't want to spend money on disruption pods or any type of vehicle upgrade for the Piranha, just because they are good for their points. You know, like I just mentioned, there are alternatives for that point cost that can do the same thing as a burst cannon. But if you're doing this with fusion blasters as a tank hunter, they're really good just the way they are. You wouldn't want to spend a lot of points on upgrading them because they are vulnerable to attack with only 2 hull points. They can die pretty easily, and the upgrades that you might take for them aren't going to really make a difference, so it's better to invest those points somewhere else. Overall, I'd say that the Piranha improved a lot in this edition. The low point costs and the extended range really make it an effective, highly mobile weapons platform for fusion blasters. That gun drones act a little bit differently and can disembark and stuff and form their own units. That's great, although they're still gun drones. You know, they're not something that you're going to want to take the unit for. They're not something that's like, don't take the unit just for the gun drones. Obviously, you could just take a standard gun drone squadron for that. But in some ways, then you're getting 2 units for the price of 1 if you disembark the gun drones. They can serve as an additional unit, which is nice. But personally, I would run them with fusion blasters in a group of 3 like you have here, serving as tank hunters. Running them in a group of 3 gives them a little bit more longevity and can really improve your chances of taking out a tank if they make it there, which depending on what else you bring, there might be more important targets that they will fire at, or something else. So I would expect that they will be effective in this edition as tank hunters, but I wouldn't take them for burst cannons. But yeah, the real downside with the Piranha, though, is that it does have to compete with all the great fast attack options that the new Codex has. We have obviously Piranhas, gun drone squadrons, Vespids, but most importantly, it has to compete with these guys, the Pathfinders, which are really a mainstay of the Army. They're something that the new Codex, and the old one too, to a lesser extent, really capitalizes on. And the Flyers, which I'll talk about in a future video, that can be really interesting and bring a lot to your army, a lot more than Piranhas can. They're in a lot of ways they're more of the same, but they do offer a lot of mobility and some flexibility in your army too. So if you want to bring them, if you have the models, I'd say give it a shot, see how it goes, but I probably won't be bringing any in my army unless I'm running a double force organization chart at 2,000 points or above, and then only if I don't want to sink my points into something else. They're going to kind of be a filler unit that I take if I have the points and feel like bringing a Piranha along, just because they're kind of fun. They are a really neat model. I like the wing design and everything like that. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment below, let me know what you think about the Piranha. Is it a good unit? Is it not so great? What would you use your Piranha for if you have one, or if you want to get one, what are you thinking about? And like this video if you liked it, and again, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.